Right, hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Now, as you can see, I've bought quite a lot of Matchbox kits recently, and I've asked what people would like us to see, would like me to build next, and the comments come up quite a bit. So I've got a couple of comets. The A-34 Mark I Comet, a British tank late in Second World War with the sort of modified 17-pounder. One of my favourite tanks as well. So we're going to build one of them. So I've got two, both still in the wrappings, but this one it's got, the box is a little bit crushed. I mean, it's not too bad, and it will pop back out again. But I thought, this is the one we're going to go for, and we'll go and see what it's like. Now, like I said, it hasn't been opened before, so I'll quickly cut the cellophane. Those of you of a nervous disposition, please look away. And I'll just cut a bit of cellophane off there. So, this is a 1983 kit, I think. 83, 86, something like that. Anyway, never mind, let's get into it. Easier said than done. Okay, we'll get rid of that. So yeah, the box isn't in the best of conditions. It seems been crushed there. We'll see what the kit's like inside. It may be the silver tracks as well, so I'm not quite sure what sort of condition they're going to be in. So this is the first time this kit's seen the light of day for nearly 50 years. Box is empty. Now, if the silver tracks aren't very flexible... Oh, I've got 3 transfer sheets in that, look at that. So, anyway, an abundance of transfer sheets. So these usually are a problem, but they look very flexible. So I'm going to have no problem with those whatsoever. So Peter, if you're watching, silver tracks aren't too bad some of the time. But like I say, this one's been sealed. So let's have a quick look at the instructions, and then we'll have a quick look at the model, and then I'll start building. It's a typical Matchbox style. So you start off with the tub basically of the tank, road wheels, idler wheels, mount them on the hull itself. Tracks go on, turret gets built up, turret gets put on the tank, tank hull goes on top of the onto the running gear, and you got the little sort of diorama itself, which is the big seller for these kits. It's not the most exciting one in this model, but not to worry. So we've got so it's got A and B, so it's like dark earth and bronze color. I don't think that's an accurate color, but I might do them that. Looks like some sort of disruptive pattern. And so we've got the 2nd Fife and Foreman Yeomanry. You can do that, or the 1st Royal Tank Regiment. I might do the 1st Royal Tank Regiment because we've got the Desert Rats on, and we've got Long John Silver the 3rd, so that's going to look quite good. Well, let's have a quick look at the box art, because it really is very, very good. I think this is a Roy Huxley effort. So we've got the Comet charging out of some derelict or blown up town, going full chat. 17-pounder firing, and the 2 Beezer machine guns firing as well. It says the 2nd Fife and Foreman Yeomanry with a Mark I Comet moving up to the Wesser bridgehead, April 1945. So it's pretty close to the end of the Second World War. But it's a lovely bit of box art. It hasn't been messed around with. Very dynamic, very exciting. You've got other kits on the side, which I now all have them in my collection. It gives you some sort of idea of what the finished base and tank's going to look like on the back. It says no paint necessary, but we are going to paint these as per usual. Let's look at the plastic. Fairly straightforward. So you've got the back deck, nicely detailed, some nice grill work there. The 17-pounder itself, I might drill that out because it's going to be solid on the end. Whole top, nice detail there. Again, we've got the tow cable moulded in to the front plate. Top of the turret, very nice again. 2 Beezer machine guns there. The rear plate, rear plate for the hull. Top of the driver's hatch, and that's a light green, and we've got a brown colour. I always remember this being slightly darker than this, but it looks like on the box art slightly darker, but not to worry. So we've got a sort of bomb hole that the tank's driving through. We've got some crushed sort of fencing and some barbed wire, so it's quite a simple base. Road wheels, drive sockets. The moulding's excellent on these. There's no flash whatsoever. That was superb. Nice detail on the road wheels as well. Bolt heads all there, present and correct. But yeah, three bits of 3 transfer sheets. Those two have still got the paper on, so we'll leave them there. But we'll have a look at these, and they look brand new. They look like they'll be excellent. Won't have any problems with them. So we'll get on with the model. So we'll start by doing the bottom hole. I'll just quickly cut them off. So with my Tamiya snips, cut the bottom plate off, the 2 side plates as well, which have the running gear on, or have the axles anyway, and the swing arms. Cut them off. Do that one. Cut that one off as well, and the rear deck, the rear plate, which is that one there. Nip that one off. And to clean them up, basically just grab my scalpel. I might put a new blade on this one because it's a bit, it's getting a bit old, and just nip the bit off and scrape clean it with a blade. That's nice and clean. Get rid of that one there. Always watch your thumbs as well. One there as well, and just clean it with a blade. That's how I do it. Simple as that. One clean part. Right, I'll do the other bits and we'll get them glued together. Okay, let's have a look and see where we're up to. The kit built up really quickly, really easily, no issues whatsoever. But I thought we'd have a quick look at the details. So the idler sprocket nicely spoked out there. Looks very nice. The road wheels, again, got nice bolt head detail. The drive socket, and okay, again, good detail on that. I mean, obviously the holes haven't been drilled out, but let's not worry about that too much. Return rollers are very nice. The back deck detail, good. We've got the tow hook there, although the rear spring is sort of moulded into the back deck. That's not an issue, I don't think. Let's have a look at the top of the hole. Again, went together really easily, no issues whatsoever. So you've got moulded on detail like the sort of like the gun crutch there. The 2 Beezer machine guns have gone on. Nice details there on the hatches as well. If you look at the 17 pounder, I've drilled out the muzzle brake as well. See if I can get that to come up. Let's have another look. So basically just opened the end up with a scalpel blade and just drilled out the muzzle brake and joined it all together. But say the detail is very nice on this. I did build the Vespid one last year, the Vespid 1/72 scale Comet. It's obviously far superior to the Matchbox one, being a modern kit, but it's very, very nice. But compared to the Matchbox one's obviously pocket money price, and it's gone together really nice. And you can see the kit is from 1974. So this is 1974 mould, and so this is 51 years old that I'm building it today. So the mouldings have held up really well. It's a perfect fit. The fit is exceptional for a kit that's so old. So basically I want to put the tracks on next. Just a little bit of advice: when you put possibly the idler wheels and the drive sprockets, I've just put a little bit of super glue on that to give a little extra strength, so when the tracks pull, they hopefully don't pull them towards the centre of the chassis and bend them in, which would look daft. So I put the tracks together. They seem pretty flexible. Now they're supposed to try and fit in those little sprocket holes, which I don't think they're going to do. No, it might do a bit of persuasion. Let's see what they're like first, see how tight they are. They're going to be quite tight, so I'm going to have to try and get these into these sprocket holes to get that extra space. So let's get this, see if we can get that in. Right, I think I'm going to have to work on that a little bit, see if I can get them through there. I don't want to force it and damage the drive sprocket. Right, let me mess about with that a little bit and I'll come straight back. Yeah, that was a bit of a struggle, but that's the tracks on. Now, so that's the body all put together, the holes back together. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to prime it, and then I'm going to stick the tracks, little drop of super glue on the idlers and the road wheels, just to keep it in position. And if it ever snaps or in the future, then it should be held in position, which it may do. So that's the Comet completely built. The only thing I've done really is just drill out the muzzle brake and sort of the loops, the holes on the lifting eyes, lifting eyes on the body and on the front plate there. There's nothing else to drill out on it. So we're going to give it a coat of varnish. Coat of varnish. I'm well ahead of myself. A coat of primer. And I've had a lot of messages about primer. I've showed this before, but this is what I use. Grey primer from Autotech. It sprays very, very well. and I think it's pretty much from the same people who used to make or do make the Halfred's Grey primer, but it's like half the price. I think it is identical to that stuff. I think Halfred's have changed their formula, and I've had a few people say it's not that good, but I recommend this. Obviously, when it's a new tin, just be careful because it does blast out a bit, but as it gets less and less, it's easier to control. But obviously, just light dust coat, you don't need to flood it. So as soon as it stops raining, I'm going to go outside and I'm going to give these a little dust of the primer. Then I'll super glue the tracks on, and then we'll look at what colour to paint it. I have been looking, because the box, sort of the instructions or the box art says, well, that says it's like two green, a dark green and a light green, but on the instructions it says it's like an earth colour. Now I don't think they had a disruptive colour of green and brown on. I might be wrong, but I can't see them anywhere. It may have been like a wartime photograph of the thing covered in mud. I know there was a later black disruptive pattern went on it over the green, but I think we're going to go traditional. We're just going to go green with this. Keep it light a little bit green. So like I say, when you're building smaller models like this, you want to try and add a bit more zest, a little bit more colour, just to lift them a little bit. So once that's primed, we'll get the base coat on, and we'll get on with the fun bit, weathering. Yes, but just a quick one on the colours of the plastic. It's actually quite logical with this model. So you've got the hull, the main body of the tank is green, the road wheels are brown, or like a digestive biscuit brown, and so is the base. So as I always say, when you're weathering a model on a base, you want to tie the model into the base. So that Matchbox have done that for you with the same colour. But I think that's very good. So let's get some primer on and let's get some paint on it. Right, we're going to get some paint on this Comet. I'll just quickly show you the paint I'm going to be using. I'm going to be using Revell 65. It is a enamel paint, and I thin it with cellulose thinners. Like I said, this is quite nasty stuff, so I really wouldn't spray it on big models. It's okay for small things like this. So it's a 50-50 mix of cellulose thinners and Revell number 65. Let's see how it comes out. Yeah, so I would always have windows open, or at least have a mask on when you're spraying this stuff. It does stink the house out. Luckily I've got a nice room to spray it in, but this is the ones I use. It's cellulose thinners, it's Baratine, that's from Halfred. It's quite expensive, but it's the least smelly one that I can find. And the reason, right, so the reason why I'm going to use enamels is because I'm going to weather this down quite a bit, so it's going to get lots of washes, etc., with like white spirit. And the primer I use is Tough Old primer, so that's the primer that I showed before, and you can see how smooth it's got the finish on that, and it's tough enough to take cellulose thinners and all the washes I want to put on it. So let's quickly get some paint on it. I think I've got a quite high pressure. Just see how it goes. Yeah, so it's a reasonable high pressure I've got it at. It's not a bad green, so I'll get the rest of the green on. Then I'm going to want to lighten it up a little bit. So I don't know whether to put a bit of buff in there or a bit of yellow, just to give it a bit of a lift and pick out some panel details. Because I want to go a bit over the top with the paintwork on this. So I'll get the rest of the green on, and then we'll... Oh, there's a preview of one that's coming. Look at that one. We'll come back to that. And in a couple of minutes we get that nice coverage on the model. And it dries pretty quick, especially with the cellulose thinners. So that's pretty dry on top anyway. And with the draft coming through the window, that'll soon cook off, as it were. Right, so I'm going to put a little bit of buff in with this paint and just sort of pick out some highlights. I'll just try and find out what one I'm going to use. So let me have a rifle through me paint stone. I'll come straight back to you, and I'll get rid of that because I'm going to try and keep focused on one thing. Keep my train of thought focused on the Comet and Matchbox for now. Right, 2 seconds. Right, I put a smidge of that in, Bat 74, that's Humbrol, so it's like an off yellow. So I'll put a little bit of that in with the green. Don't know if you can see that, so it's lightened it up a bit. Now I want to try and pick out some panels. So with the airbrush, that's my little Eclipse Highwater CMC. It really is, I've had this for years, it's a fantastic airbrush. I must do a video on airbrushes sometime in the future, but what I'm going to try and do is just pick up the top of the panels there I don't know if you can see that, actually you probably can't because it's miles away. You can see just the highlight, just the centre of the panels. It's going to be very subtle, and I'm going to go all around the model and just pick up the top of the highlights of the panels. I don't know if you can really see very well on the camera. Right, I'll go on the camera, it's my telephone. I'll go around and do the rest, and then we'll see what it looks like. I might add a little bit more of that yellow in just to lift it a bit more. And there we go. So it gives the panel some sort of shading effect. See if I can catch it in the light there because it's still a bit wet. It'll settle down a bit more, and obviously once it gets a coat of varnish on and a bit more weather and dry brush and washes, it'll not disappear, but it'll blend in and give a nice sort of bit of interest, bit of contrast in the panels, etc, etc. So that's where we are at the minute. I'm going to let that dry now, then it'll get a coat of gloss varnish where the transfers are going to go. Then we'll start with the weathering. I may put some dirt on it first, like airbrush some dirt around the track area before I put the transfers on. Sometimes if you put the transfers on before you weather, you can over weather and you just kill the transfers, but basically I want to keep them quite sharp and bright. But we'll see how it goes. I'll see what it's like when it's dry and see what I feel like. Right, we now have a little bit of gloss coat on there, as you can see on the side of the turret and the storage bins and the front and rear plates. Now that's where the transfers go. So I've cut them out, I've given them a little bit of water, and they seem to be coming quite free from the backing paper. So this is like the identification mark, so if I can just grab it, it looks okay. It does have a slight sort of like powdery effect on them on the backing paper, but just wipe it off and it should be okay. So basically, let's pick a spot. It goes on the side of the turret, about there, according to the instructions. We'll straighten it up. And that looks pretty good. So what I'll do, I'll put the rest of the transfers on, we'll let them dry, and we'll see what state they appear to be. But they look pretty good, so I don't think we're going to have any issues with them. So I'll put the rest of them on. So I'm doing the 1st Tank Regiment, 22nd Armoured Brigade, 7th Armoured Division. So that's the ones that are going on, the little Desert Rat. So just make sure that's correct. Okay, otherwise that looks pretty good so far. So let's get the rest of them on. Before I do this, I'll just demonstrate what I mean by white fuzziness. So you can see the white bit under the transfer there. Well, I think that comes off the backing paper. So I just wipe it. I don't know if you can see. So it kind of takes it off. So we'll put that on and it should be okay. But they look pretty good. Okay, so we've done a bit of work on the base. Basically just got some Vallejo of paints and just sort of give a rough idea of the mud and dirt. So what we're going to attempt now is to add some grass. So I'm going to try and make it a bit dead or yellowy around the edge of the crater and a bit more green around the outside. So I'm going to use some old olive green Vallejo paint, and I've just bought this morning from Hobbycraft, a little acrylic paint from Humbrol. So I've gone for matte yellow. So we're basically just going to get some green and yellow down on there. We've got a load of water, and we're going to try and work it so darkish green into lightish green, maybe just to try and get some definition on this crater. Like I say, we're just having a bit of fun with this at the minute. So like I say, I'll just put a bit of dark green around the outside, so it's quite thin, and work our way up there, and then say maybe put a bit yellow at the top there to like give it a bit of definition, and then back into darker green down the bottom there, and again a bit more yellow at the top there. I don't mind being a bit bright, you know. It sort of gives you the aspect of a sort of like toy effect that the Matchbox kits would have. But obviously I'm going to weather it down a bit later, get some mud on it to make it match up with the vehicle as well. So I'm going to go around the base, we'll get all that on, and we'll see what it's like when I'm finished. And that's what we end up with. So I've gone all the way around the outside with like a slightly darker green to give it some sort of a bit of interest to it, so that it's like the lighter grass in the middle has been damaged by the explosion, and the darker, more lusher green is around the outside. The Comet has had all the main colours blocked in, the tracks, the guns, the tyres on the wheels. So I'm going to give them a little bit of a dusting with some dirt colour, which is going to be this one. So I'm trying these tried these a couple of times. They seem to be working quite well. So this is Humbrol acrylic generation 2, 29 matte. So it's like an earth colour. I put a couple of bits of that in the airbrush and some common or garden water from the tap, and that's the kind of effect we get. So I'm going to see what it's like. So I'll spray a bit on the base first, just to try and tie it all together. So I want like streak marks going out from the explosion. See how it goes on, just to try and calm it all together and bring it all together a little bit. Oh, sorry, brush is in the way there. So I'll work that a little bit more to get a bit more continuity amongst that, and obviously you want the tank to be the same. You want some dirt on the hull and the tracks and the road wheels. So let's give it a bit of that. See how that goes. Right, so it's actually quite thin, but I'm going to just want to dust it on. I don't want a heavy coat. I don't want to actually swamp the model. So I'm going to go around the model and just tie it in a bit. I'm not going to go too heavy because I quite like the look of it. I like the green the way it is. So I'm going to do a bit more on the base and a bit more on the tank, and we'll bring it all together. So with a little bit of work, that's what we've got on the base. As you can see, I put like I mixed these three colours together. So what was left in the airbrush, with a teeny bit of mahogany from Vallejo and a little drop of black there, so to give like a burnt explosion sort of effect on the crater. Obviously we'll come back to the water, we'll do that last, but I think that looks okay. Looks pretty good. A little bit dusting on the tank there. So what we need to do now is put some washes on it and a little bit of dry brushing and pick out some other bits and bobs on it, but it's not a million miles away from being complete. A quickie on these acrylics. A slight downside with the bottle that these come in from Humbrol, you can't take this top off, so you can't put what you've got left in your airbrush back in the bottle. So, you know, try and measure what you need correctly. I mean, the acrylics spray quite nicely, not as good as a solvent in my opinion. I might try and mix them with some not so aggressive solvent next time and see if they spray better, but they're pretty good as is. So we'll move on to the washes, dry brushes, and pick out some additional detail, like, you know, the metallized bits of the track and some other bits and bobs, but otherwise we're not a million miles away. And then we've got to get some sort of effect on that water. It's not going to be blue and shiny like the Mediterranean, so it'll be a mucky murky colour, and I'll try and get capillary action to give that effect of it being water, but we'll come to that last. Okay, let's get on with the mud wash. So this is my custom made oil based wash I'm going to put on the model and on the base. So it's just various browns of oil paint with a bit of white spirit mixed in. So you see it's quite thin and runny. Now what I want to do is pick up the base, an old Airfix brush. It's one's cut down, had all the bristles cut off, so it's a little stubby little brush. And basically just put a bit on there, and just, we don't want to go too heavy with it. We just let the old capillary action, word of the phrase of the day, just do its work and go into the holes, the nooks, the crannies. Oh God, I can't talk today. The nooks and the crannies. Is it crannies? Oh God, no, who knows. Anyway, so that's what you want to do. I'm going to do that over the base and over the tank. I'll just show you on the tank. So we don't want to go too mad on that. So I want to put it on the road wheels first, and you see how it goes into the recesses. That's the word I was looking for. So we do the side. I'll do the side of the tank first. So I'll do the road wheels, and that what I want to do is, once I've done that, is just lay the tank on its side and let that dry for a bit. Then do the other side. Otherwise, the paint will run down and pool and look horrible. Okay, so let's finish that off then. Right, that's the wash dried on it. So it's only a very, very light wash. Now we're going to give the thing a dry brush. So I've got me knackered old number 8 brush with buff titanium oil paint on, and I've pretty much taken most of it off. There's hardly anything left on there whatsoever. So we're going to give it a little dry brush just to lift some details. So let's see what we can do there. And simple as that. I don't know if you can see if that picks it up very well, but it just gives a little lift to the details, raised areas, and just adds a little bit more depth to your composition in diorama. So I'll do that. We'll do the the Comet as well, but I'll just do the back deck so you can try and get the effect there. See if it comes across on my iPhone 13. And you see it lifts the detail there just enough to give it a bit more accentuation and a bit more interest. It's quite an old technique. Some people say it's 1970s style model building, but it's a 1970s kit, and I really think it works very, very well, as long as you don't overdo it, and it just lifts the detail very nicely. So I'll do the rest of the model and the base, and we're not far from being complete. A few other details I want to put in, and then a flat varnish, and I think we're there. So bear with it, we're nearly done. And that's the effect we get. Just some light dry brushing there. See how it lifts the bolt details up on the fenders and the toe cables, and like the hatches as well. Just gives a slightly accentuates the detail a bit more. So we're going to give that a coat of varnish. Again, we'll give that a coat of matte varnish. Then we'll do the water. Do a couple of little things on there, maybe a couple of little scuffs and scratches on the tank, an aerial or two maybe, a coat of matte varnish, and we'll be done. Oh yes, and I want to just give the tracks a dry brush as well in silver, just to lift the treads, but otherwise we're nearly there. Right, well, I've gone on and finished the model, so let's have a quick look at it. I'll show you what I've done to the base. We'll look at that first. So as you can see, I've added some, just a clear coat over the base. So what I did was put some water on and just drop some acrylic paint on, and just let it basically swirl around to look like dirty water. So it's got like dirt in it, you know, so it gives a bit of depth, you know, a bit of burn soil from the explosion, and a couple of clear coats on it just to give it a bit of a shine there. Little details you can do. So if you look at, see this little tree there, let's get something to point with, the little broken branches. So I've just gone on with like a sand colour on the end of the branches to make them look like they've been snapped off in an explosion, or they've been torn off. It gives a bit of interest there. Around the outside I put little dots of red, just to indicate there's little flowers maybe growing in the old meadow bit that hasn't been obliterated by whatever landed there. And a dry brush and a little bit of a matte varnish on it, and I think that the base has turned out quite nice. As you can see, it wasn't that much of a difficult process to end up like that. Now the tank, the little Comet, I have put a couple of aerials on it with some stretch sprue, which is fairly straightforward to do. I think I've got a little video in my history somewhere that shows you how to do that. I've gone in a little bit more with a slightly darker wash, just in a little bit recesses there. You can probably see it's a little bit darker, but nothing over the top, because it's quite a small model. You really don't want to overwhelm it with weathering. Again, on the back deck there, a little bit of weathering gone in there, slightly darker wash, so you can certainly see where the toolbox area is there. The other bits have been painted like the use of machine guns, the end of the muzzle brake, to make sure it looks like it's had sort of explosions and burn marks around the barrel. It's been a very busy 17-pounder. And a bit of a dry brush on the tracks to pick up the treads, so it's like a silvery bare metal effect. But that's basically the tank done, which I think's turned out quite well. So if you just follow the basic steps that I've done, and you can end up with something, well, if you like the style, you can end up with something that looks like that. It's had a coat of matte varnish, same as the base, and it just sits on like that. And I think that's a nice little collection. To add to the collection, I should say, I'd like to know your thoughts and comments below, please, and I'll try and respond to them. If you've got any questions, give us a shout. I'll get back to you. But as per usual, I'll put some still images at the end, and you can have a look at them. But again, thank you very much for watching, and on to the next one.